Hello and welcome back to the Time to Calibrate podcast. This is episode 23. I'm Brent Robillard of The Calibrated Wrist, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, freelance writer Mark Levesque and YouTube celebrity Bob Allaby from Time to Go Travel in Timepieces. Today, however, we are also joined by a very special guest and friend, Lucy Kapitanovich. Lucy is a passionate watch enthusiast and a creative force in the horology community. Based in Lincolnshire, England, she curates engaging content under the moniker The Watchbox Diaries on YouTube and also on Instagram, where she shares insightful watch reviews and striking photography. Professionally, Lucy serves as the communications officer at Paulin Watches, a Glasgow-based watch and clockmaking company renowned for its contemporary designs. Her role encompasses handling communications, marketing, and public relations, blending her creative talents with her horological passion. In fact, it was in this role that I first met Lucy earlier this year at Time to Watches in Geneva. Lucy brings a refreshing perspective to the watch world. Her contributions have been recognized by prominent platforms beyond her own as well. For example, she shared her personal watch story in Hodinkie's My Watch Story series and is a frequent author on Watch Gecko. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be speaking to you guys. I am blushing a little. I'm blushing a little bit with all of that.
Well, I could go on. You need me to go on a little bit?
I mean,
of course, we begin all of our shows with a wrist check, and so as our invitee, the honors are yours to go first.
Well, funnily enough, I've been in the process of moving house, so most of my watches have kind of been packed away in whatever box, wherever within the house. And so my favourite child, lovely Cherry, has been neglected, shall we say, for the last 2 months. So I actually got her out of storage today, and yeah, I have my Grand Seiko Cherry Blossom. The
Beautiful.
SPGA 413 is pretty much one of the only reference numbers that I can remember. But she is still the love of my life. I had to remind her multiple times today. Yes, I have named my watch. Yes, I talk to my watch. It is what it is, but I'm still very much in the honeymoon stage with her.
You've had that one for a while, too.
Neglected. A couple of years now. Yeah. I got it for my 30th birthday, so don't say too many.
It was like yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the reference number thing, though. I can never remember numbers.
Yeah,
so
me neither.
I thought it was. Every guy I know just seems to remember either reference numbers or like a million movie quotes, or you can just recall them so easily. Like I better remember what I had for breakfast. Like,
well, Mark's pretty good at that. Mark can remember these things, and so can Tyler Frederick, who works with us in our marketing department. That guy just, he can drop references and numbers just like that. Fantastic stuff.
Such a skill.
Mark, what do you?
Yeah, it depends on the models. Some of the Grand Seikos, obviously the ones that you own, you tend to remember the names, but some of the other ones, the obscure ones, are difficult. I've got my Omega Planet Ocean that I got a couple weeks ago. I'm still very much in the honeymoon with this one. It's only been a couple weeks, so I'm allowed to still be in the honeymoon.
Congratulations. Can you remember the reference number on that?
No, that's what I was going to say. That has 20 digits and a bunch of periods everywhere, and it's a silly number. But yeah, that's what I've got on. What about you, Bob?
So today Brent and I did a little swap the other day. He wanted to borrow a particular watch for a certain event, and in exchange for that, he gifted me his Seamaster to keep forever. So thanks so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Just a loaner, just a quick little trade for a few days. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. Really enjoying it.
That's great.
And what are you wearing?
I have, I should have actually worn the Tudor today since we did that swap, but I have a very special one on today because it launches today, and it's the Longines Spirit Zulu Time 125. So it has the 18 karat gold insert that's here, and then sort of rose gold colored accents everywhere else. Really do like this one, actually. So we did an article today on the website as well as a video up on YouTube. But I have to say it's probably, and I do really like this collection, it's probably my favorite of the collection so far. Yeah,
I'm a massive fan of the Longines Spirit collection. I think they really nailed it.
Yeah, we had Alexandre Voirin, who was the designer of that collection. We had him on our podcast a few episodes ago.
Yeah, he put a little comment on the post this morning, actually. He does like it as well.
Very cool.
As he did, I suppose, have a hand in the original design. So, Lucy, you once mentioned that your watch journey began with a certain Rolex Datejust. Can you explain how it was that watch that made you go down the rabbit hole?
Oh, the one that started it all. So every time I tell this story, it's still like an emotional thing because it has so much connection. So my stepdad had a vintage Rolex Datejust, champagne dial, 36 millimeter, Jubilee bracelet that was absolutely stretched to hell. It was a very well loved watch. Lots of dings, lots of dents. Been everywhere with it, and I just loved that character in it. It was like, oh, do you want to wear it? I was like, I just like, even though I didn't know a lot about watches at the time, I'm like, Rolex is quite expensive. But sure, yeah. He's like, yeah, like watches are made to be worn, which is what he was, his takeaway from it was, it's like, just wear it, don't worry too much about it, just go for it. So I wore it for a couple of weeks, and I was like, oh my god, I love this watch. This is gorgeous. The champagne dial it's not too much, it's not too flashy. It was very, very loved, and yeah, I was like, okay, well, Rolex is cool, but everyone kind of knows Rolex. It's a brand that people who are into watches also know, and I very much like to find things like the quirky things. So yeah, I ended up going down the rabbit hole of what else is there in the industry, and then once you start researching, I guess you guys probably know the process. Once you
sounds familiar,
think about, once you go down that rabbit hole, you're not getting out. That's it. That was me for life. So yeah, so it was a lovely, very characterful watch that got me into it. I will get that watch eventually. It is being inherited, but as soon as I moved away from my hometown, I had to give it back, which was very upsetting. Every time I go to visit now, I'm like, hi, where's the watch?
Did you name it?
I haven't named that one yet. I know. I think because maybe it's not mine yet.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's it. I think that's when I'll either name it or I'll have a name to passed on to me.
So
Steve.
So nice to finally meet you, first of all.
Nice to finally meet you.
It's kind of funny, but we came very close to meeting. I made the trip out to the British Watchmakers Day show just a couple of months ago.
This year.
I saw you in the distance 2 or 3 different times, and but I was so busy, and I wanted to come and introduce myself, but we just didn't end up connecting. But
those shows are carnage. They're so busy.
It's crazy. And it's such a small world, even coming there from Canada. There's so many people and brands that you end up knowing. And I was going to ask you, like, I believe you're the founder or head of Red Bar Cambridge as well, too.
Yes.
So just the importance of the whole show meetup thing, getting face-to-face time with people. How important is that for you?
For me, like at shows or at Red Bar,
or just a combination of watch community events. Like,
I mean, the watches are great, and obviously I have a huge passion for watches, but the community, the people in the industry, particularly smaller brands, independent brands that you get at shows similar to the British Watchmakers, the community is incredible. Like some of my best friends I met through watches. Everyone is like, I guess 90% of people that I've come across are just supportive, enthusiastic, like friendly. They want to know what you think about the watches. They have the same passion and enthusiasm, and it is such a cool community to be part
100%.
of. And when you're on the outside of it, you think, watches, that's a tiny niche. And then you get into it and you get to a watch event and you're like, oh my God, there are so many people here. And you can fully nerd out, and no one's going to get bored of you talking about a watch for 2 hours straight.
Oh, for sure.
Because they're in it with you.
I had the afternoon slot at the British Watchmakers Day, and I could have just spent my whole entire time at one booth. It's crazy. It's definitely a lot
Half the
of fun.
time, I don't see any watches.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
probably see about 2 booths, and you end up chatting to people because, a lot of the community is online. As you guys, well know, a couple of us have been speaking for maybe years on and off.
Yeah, years.
But
Absolutely.
you never end up meeting them.
Yeah.
So when you do speak to people and meet these people, you end up just chatting away. And you're like, oh yeah, I was actually here to see watches. Did you find that as well?
100%. Yeah.
Oh
100%.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We just had the Vancouver Timepiece show a couple of weeks ago, and I was helping Jose from Isotope, and we were there for 3 days. I don't think I saw all the booths. I'm sure I know I missed at least a dozen, which is sad.
Yeah, for sure. I know on that first evening, Bob and I were part of the creators, and we were going around, and we had 4 hours. You would think that in 4 hours you could get around that room that was that size, but no, I don't think we made it halfway either of us. No.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
That looks like such a good event. Like Jason, I wasn't there, but Paulin were there.
Yeah,
and I think Jason did a really good job of arranging everything, and he's such a sweetheart as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
absolutely. He had thrown an extra event at the beginning of this on the Thursday evening, and was particularly targeted toward brands. So I met Katie, actually, from Paulin there. We were at the same table that night, and that was actually, I think, one of the nicest moments, because everybody was still relaxed. The show had not started yet. Nobody had to get into setup mode or to presentation mode or anything. People were really just chill, and it was a nice moment, and to sort of meet, chat, and talk watches, but talk everything too.
That was a highlight for me too. You and I were, other than Jason, were the only non-brand people there, really. So it was kind of cool to have that moment, the calm before the storm, so to speak, before the show started.
Yes,
Just snuck in like, we're with the brands.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Little brand groupies.
We were wannabes.
Yeah.
We were wannabes. But talking about brands, Lizzie, your work with Paulin, and then you also have your creative work with the Watchbox Diaries. That seems to be a fairly dynamic mix. What's that like, or how do they complement each other in your daily life?
I love being able to do both. It's like, I'm very lucky to be able to do that. Like, I never thought, like, a couple of years ago that I would be doing watches full time. So I think because the roles are different in their day-to-day tasks, I guess, I have enough variety going on between the two. But it's all watches, it's all speaking with people, it's all communications, it's connecting with industry people and content creators and the community. So they merge in that respect. So, people I come across, like, hey, like, I can talk about Paulin, I can talk about the Watchbox Diaries. It's basically getting to talk about watches 24/7. And I'm in no way, shape or form bored at all yet. So as long as this can continue, I'm good.
That's great.
So being a YouTube creator, one thing I like to do when we have YouTubers on the podcast is go back, and this might scare you for a second, but go back to where it all started, the first videos. You started with a really cool series called 60-ish Second Reviews. Many people, myself included, take a while to get comfortable talking to the camera. Your video quality was great, and you sounded natural right off the bat. Was there something, did you have a career in this before, or were you creating content maybe on other topics beforehand?
No, absolutely fresh to the YouTube environment. It was the 60-second thing kind of resonated with me, especially in the beginning, because it was a quick take, not too much pressure around it, not too much editing around it, because I was new to that. I kind of thought, okay, people are short on if people are short on time, maybe they just want a little snapshot of the overview, how it looks on the wrist, how it actually wears, rather than, the renders or, the spec sheet that you see online. So I was like, 60 seconds, is manageable for me. Let's give it a go. I'm not in it. I'm not in the initial videos. It's just me and my rather large hands. And yeah, that's kind of how it started off. By the way, actually having it at 60 seconds is so difficult. I found I was like,
Can imagine.
how do I squeeze all of this information into 60 seconds?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So as much as I wanted to, as much as I enjoyed starting out trying to do the 60-second thing, because it wasn't a dumb thing at the time, you ended up having way more to say, or I did anyway, than 60 seconds. So that's how it sort of pushed to 60-ish seconds. And now I'm doing like 10-minute videos and YouTube lives. So yeah, another escalation of my videos and my content.
What's the process like for you to create like a 10-minute video? Like, is it a couple of day thing by the time it's all said and done, or?
I mean, I guess all of you guys have an appreciation and more of an understanding, I guess, than the average, enthusiast as to how much work goes into creating a video or a podcast, or the media around it. Around my work, it does take a fair bit of time. So not only do you want to spend enough time with the watch that you get a good feel for it, you can make your assessments and your opinions, then you write the script, then you get the B-roll, then you do the filming, then you do the editing, and you edit in all of the videos and the content that you want to put within the video. Then you've got to do your thumbnails, your titles, your promotion of the video, and it's a lot of work, but I do still enjoy it very much. And getting that video out there and having some, people come back to you and say, thank you very much, this video helped me, or this helped me make a decision. Not my kind of thing, but now I have an appreciation for it. That's what it's all about. So it's worth it.
It's hard, but every time I hit that post button and a couple of comments start coming in, it's all of a sudden worth it again, but yeah. Yeah.
I guess sometimes you sit there and think, oh, how are people going to react to it? How are people going to receive this watch and this video? And yeah, as you said, like, you get those comments coming in. It's just really nice. Even if one person, for me, even if one person comes back and says, thank you, this helped with the decision, or I really appreciated it, or, as a female content creator, thank you for giving a female opinion of it.
Yep.
That just brings me so much joy.
Oh, 100%.
So much joy.
Cool.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing that you just said, because it kind of leads me into what I was going to ask you next. Just recently, we were sort of tweaking our media deck at the Calibrated Wrist. And as part of that, we were looking at some analytics and stats. And on my IG account, what it tells me is that my followership is 98% men and 2% women. And I wondered if you ever experienced that statistic. Is that ever apparent to you in your daily life? And what's that experience like?
It is heavily male dominated. Like, in this industry, it just is. But since I started my Instagram to now, so that was around lockdown time. So when did it start? 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, so I probably started about then. So within the last 5 years, I've seen more and more women slowly tipping that balance. I would love to see a 50-50 split. That would be amazing. But I understand that this is the industry that it is, and it may never get there. But there's definitely more of an appreciation. There's definitely more women now that are feeling more comfortable showing and being more enthusiastic about watches. And yeah, I might not know about Caliber. I might not know about how that particular movement works, but it's okay, because there are other women out there that don't care about that, but they do like watches still. So I have found in my analytics as well that there are more women now than 5 years ago that were, checking out my account, and I'm love that. Like, obviously I'm an advocate for females within the industry and women feeling comfortable about being part of the community.
And don't kid yourself. There's a lot of guys and men that don't know about movements or how they work and are into the aesthetics and the comfort and the way that it makes them feel. And there's reasons to like these things other than just the mechanics of them, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's interesting. Sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that upstairs, while we're having this chat right now, Caroline is actually working on a YouTube video. So it kind of ties into both the questions we were just talking about, and I know that you might not have seen this one, Lucy, it just came out, but I know these guys did about the Vancouver Timepiece show. It ended up being an almost 30-minute long video, and it took 8 hours of work. And this is a person that, 2 years ago was not really all that involved in the watch industry. And now she's jumped in with both feet. And, she's met you, obviously, Lucy, in Geneva as well. But I think that she feels very welcomed by those other, be they a smaller number of familiar faces that she sees out there. So I think it's fantastic what you're doing.
A bit of exposure therapy that helps. But yeah, like that's how I felt more comfortable when I first got into watches. So the 10 and 2 podcast, Cat and Cat and Jenny L, like it was basically just like just men on YouTube and Instagram when I first started. And then I found the 10 and 2 and I found Jenny L, and I was like, oh, okay, there are women out there. There are women that do this, and I can relate a bit more to them and the content that they're providing. So it's amazing. Like, honestly, it's really amazing to feel like I'm now part of that, and I could be like, I'm that person for someone else's journey.
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure.
Very cool.
So I would like to personally thank you on behalf of our podcast for mentioning our show during one of your Women Talking Watches episodes on YouTube. Both you and Sherry talked about us last year, back in the very early days of our show. I think we had maybe 1 or 2 episodes out. And I was watching live, and when you guys did say our podcast, I was all giddy, and I had a smile for probably the rest of the day. That really made my day. And so if you could tell our audience what that's all about, the Women Talking Watches on your channel, perhaps talk about your partners, Kate, Sam, Sarah, and of course, Sherry. And how did you all meet? How did you get started? And how often do you do the show?
Oh, honestly, it's not even planned most of the time. It's women. It's literally women talking watches and often drinking wine on a Wednesday. It's a lot of W's occurring. We joke and we call ourselves, our little WhatsApp group is called Her Dinky.
That's great.
I'm not sure whether like anyone's going to come for me. But we kind of call ourselves Her Dinky. And I met them all through watches. So Shari, I met in one of her shops, so Francis and Gay. They have 2 stores in Coventry and Loughborough. This means not a lot to Canadian people, but so she has 2 stores, and we went in there, ended up chatting to her for ages about watches, and it is literally just like one of my best friends now. Sam, I met through Scottish Watches predominantly. So we, back in the day, had a YouTube channel, a YouTube spin-off, I guess, to Scottish Watches. It was actually called Time of the Week. And we had people be like, do you know what that sounds like? You know, like, it was done on, it was on purpose.
You know what? Ricky probably knew what it was about. That's probably his idea.
It was mine.
Oh, no way.
We were trying to come up with it was me, Sam, who is, Sam from my channel, UK Sam, and then there was Sam and her Watchbox, who was US Sam. And we were trying to come up with a name for it. And I think I just got drunk one Wednesday evening. And I was like, what about Time of the Week? And that's how we ended up coming up with the name. And that's how I met. Yeah, that's how I met her. Kate, I met through Sam. So she works with auctions and sort of, I guess, grey market. She works in Burlington Arcade as well. Like, her knowledge is insane. And the same with Sarah. Sarah, I met through the Scottish Watches podcast, where I think I interviewed her first, and then we have co-hosted a podcast for them before as well. And again, like, just being able to chat watches with women, and then you end up becoming, literally best friends. Like Bob, I'm really glad you actually didn't see us at the beginning of British Watchmakers, because I just turned up and I was so excited to see them, and they were stood right at the beginning where the sign is.
I actually saw you guys there. That's where I first saw you. I'm not kidding.
Oh my gosh, I'm so like I'm a little bit embarrassed by it, but
I think Lucy turned 2 shades of pink.
I definitely did the girl squeal, like,
yeah, I literally was right there.
Launched myself at them, hugged them, and then we ended up basically just taking over in front of the logo by having this random photo shoot, looking like the Spice Girls in ridiculous positions, and it's just so much fun. And I realize I've probably talked a bit too much about that, but I love my girls. I love my girls. I love my crew.
That's awesome.
And it extends out to so many other women as well. Like every time I see them, I'm like, this is such a joy.
That's awesome. Brent mentioned your Rolex that sparked your appreciation. Were you always into watches before that? Did you have any curiosity back when you were younger, or any family members other than that had watches that? No.
So I actually grew up with 3 older brothers. So although like I had a bit of the girly side, I was kind of, more of a climb a tree and, that sort of, let's go to, down to the local lake and fish or something. I don't know. But no, so I kind of always liked things that weren't super, super girly. So, I mean, oh God, it's embarrassing. Like I had like Ed Hardy watches, the ones with the skulls on them. Like that was my vibe. But I wasn't ever really into watches. I did. And again, I'm just going to embarrass myself on this entire podcast here. Just laying it all out. I always remember that the girls around me all had like Michael Kors watches. This was back in the day. Please, no one judge me. They all had Michael Kors watches, and they were like, "Oh, my boyfriend's bought me this Michael Kors watch. My boyfriend's bought me this Michael Kors." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Well, I don't have a boyfriend. I didn't have a boyfriend at the time." And I was like, "Do you know what I'm going to do? Because I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm going to buy my own Michael Kors watch." And to me, that was a lot of money at the time. It was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got that watch, I was so pleased with myself. I was like, yes, I bought myself this watch. And then, as soon as I went down the rabbit hole of watches, I was like, what have I done? I'm like, maybe I shouldn't ever tell people that that's how it actually started. But no, that is unfortunately where my love of watches started. It was a strong, independent woman vibe.
That's perfect. So forgive me ahead of time, but I did a little snooping on the internet. So I visited your LinkedIn page, which is what we often do for a lot of our guests. And I noticed that you had started your career in education, human resources, recruiting, some sales, and eventually led you to the world of watches. And then about 4 years ago, you put that experience and talent into focus into horology. And for a while, you were doing your production planning work at a plastics company and working the Watchbox Diaries YouTube channel, which we've already established is a lot of work. And like, 2 out of 3 of us have day jobs and we do the podcast and I write for different places. Bob has a career as well. Brent is retired, which is unfair. But anyways, that's a story for another day. How did you manage doing all of that extracurricular work with your career at the same time? Because I struggle with that at times.
It is a struggle. No one, that's something that people don't see. So I was very much struggling with trying to do a full-time job and then trying to do the YouTube videos and the content and getting to the events in my evenings and my weekends. And then you obviously try and live your life. You have to do things like the cooking and the cleaning and the general boring household tasks and the socializing, the seeing friends and family. And as my YouTube started getting bigger, there was a lot more pressure to okay, I can't go and see these people because I do need to get that video out, but I have to go and see these people. Okay, so I can't do that video. So there was a lot of sacrificing sort of evenings and weekends for quite a while, actually. So I don't envy people that are still doing that. And this is why I consider myself incredibly lucky to be able to do what I do now and have the split that I have. Like, I love Paulin, appreciated the brand before I even started working for them. That is a 4-day-a-week job for me. The 5th day I now dedicate entirely to doing the Watchbox Diaries content. So a lot of that pressure that was on my evenings and weekends now goes into that, specific day. Don't get me wrong, I still, do evenings and weekends occasionally, but there's a lot more flexibility in it now. So I'm really, really happy with how things have turned out, and I feel very lucky.
Congratulations for that. That's amazing.
For sure.
And that leads me to your current role at Paulin. Just like Mike Pearson is the perfect fit for Christopher Ward, I feel the same about you and Paulin. I think that it's a perfect match.
Can
you tell us how you landed that role?
I actually went up to see them about getting some content on the studio and the enameling process for Anne Odin. So like, oh, do you want to pop up and see the studio? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, that would be incredible. Ended up having a good chat with Lewis, who obviously, if as many are aware, is the owner of Anne Odin and now Paulin as well. Started talking about content and marketing and, how they were getting on with it and things that they were maybe that could maybe help them. And they were like, would you fancy helping us out? Would you fancy a job with us?
Wow.
I was like, I love the brand, of course. Like, actually, yeah. Obviously, it was a very, very scary jump to go from a full-time job to not in watches to doing something within watches, that I'd never done on a professional level before, I guess, with the YouTube stuff, but as a job. And yeah, it's just a role that I absolutely love. So yeah, that's how it came about, and everyone in the company is really lovely, so that helps.
Yeah, I met Katie accidentally in Vancouver.
You said.
I told you, I texted you, I messaged you afterwards. You told me Katie was going to be at the show, and I never got a chance to go visit Paulin. And then at the Marathon TGN event, I was with Caroline, Brent's wife, talking with Katie. Didn't know it was Katie. And we were talking for a while, and then only when I got home and I saw the pictures that I realized that was Katie from Paulin. I would have extended your greetings from you, and it would have been a better conversation.
Some of them don't have very strong Glaswegian accents.
No, well,
so I guess she wouldn't have.
Yeah, but there were other people from England there.
Katie in particular.
I mean, Fears was there. Studio Underdog was there. So was Elliot Brown, and there's a couple other. So was Bowcroft. So there was other UK representatives. So, and that accent was floating around. Plus there's visitors from the UK as well. And we have visitors from all over the place. It was really incredible.
Yeah, like.
So.
Oh, go on.
Oh, no, I was, your content, it often highlights stories and the stories behind watches. And for me, I think that's the most important thing, or at least it's the thing that interests me the most when I get down that rabbit hole that we just discussed. So how is it that you choose the stories that you tell?
It depends on the watch, and it depends on the actual backstory of it. If I resonate with it, or I think it's an interesting backstory, particularly sort of revivals. So I'm a vintage girl at heart. So anything with very interesting history, or a nod to a particular time, like way back when, and I find it interesting, I'm going to put that in there. I think it's nice to have a little bit of backstory to either a brand or a watch design, if there is a strong enough one, because to me, it creates a bit more of a connection to me between the brand, to know a bit more about it, about the watch, about the range itself or the design. I like to know those things, so I put them in my videos and maybe hope there might be someone out there that also cares about those things.
We were just talking about the idea of it. I mean, making watches your career or your job, or in some way making that leap to being a creator, what would you give to people who are in your similar situation as advice? How would you tell them to find their own voice, and how would you tell them to become part of that community?
I guess don't force it. Like, you find your niche for sure. I think that's very, very important. Like, why do you do what you do? Why do you want to do what you do? Who do you want to put a voice towards? What do you want to portray? If it's okay, I'm, for me, I'm a female within the watch industry. I'm quite a minority, but I also don't want to just identify as, oh, she only, she's a female watch content creator. I'd like to also be a watch content creator. Okay, so what do I need to do that? What do I need to add into those things? What would I find interesting in there? Get some feedback from people that are, from your friends or other content creators or people within the industry. They'll let you know what they actually find interesting. If you don't find it interesting, don't do it, because otherwise it's not going to be a genuine, it's not going to feel genuine when you're actually putting the video out there. So yeah, like, just for me, like, taking on watches to review, I have to have some form of interest in the watch or the brand, or, if it's a brand I've never seen before, but it's, I know I'm not going to be a fan of it, I'll decline it. Because as much as I do want a balanced review, I also, for me, I need to have an interest in it as well. Otherwise, it's not going to come across as a genuine, honest, open review. It's going to be like, oh, she's being paid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what I'm about. That's not my thing. So if you are looking to progress your own content and your own channel, and find what you like as well, and balance that with what other people like, is probably my advice, I guess.
Good
I
advice.
was going to ask you, we were talking about it before, how we go to these watch shows and you end up a lot of times not even seeing hardly any watches. It's all chit chat with the people. So we've just recreated that situation, because we've hardly talked about watches at all today. But
Sorry, guys.
No. It's like that almost every time. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But I was curious, as far as your own collection goes, any recent additions to the watch box, or is there anything on the radar you're looking to pick up maybe this year?
I'm trying to think of what I've taken on recently. I think because I'm lucky in that I am being able to get hands on with quite a few watches, and also I've just bought a house, so that's probably pushed my purchasing back a little while now. Unfortunately, I am eyeing up bimetal vintage Creedor.
Oh wow,
couple of £100 quartz. But I just think they're so cool.
Those are amazing watches, yeah.
They're awesome. Like, I am very much, I'm doing a full circle here, and I guess we all go through phases of what we like and what we don't like. I was like, no, I don't want to be like I don't want to be the jewelry kind of gal, like stereotypical, the female. Give me a vintage one though. And I'm fully into it. So there's a little place called Sumlows in Burlington Arcade in London. So if you're ever in London, head to Burlington Arcade. It is a treasure trove of vintage watches. Sumlows has some of my favorite, like, properly vintage pieces, like braceleted pieces with mother of pearl dials, lapis lazuli, like Piagets, and
wow.
Obsessed, absolutely obsessed with them. And also, a lot of my friends keep coming up to me with pendant watches, like vintage pendant watches and vintage watch rings. So
yes.
I think one of those, either a pendant or a ring watch, maybe maybe my
That'd be
next
cool.
purchase, I think.
That would be very cool.
I
To
think
show up
so.
at a watch meet with a pendant watch, a ring watch, and then a watch is like,
Just
That's like next
everything.
level. Yeah. And then you find the guy that wears the watches
Right?
sewn to suits and hang out with that guy and walk around. That'd be good.
Oh God, what's his name?
I can't remember.
Fernando.
No, the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, it's a-
Fernando.
I met him at Time to Watch
Did you?
His very, very briefly. Honestly, I was like, oh my God, I know him, but I don't know him. I'm like, this feels a little bit stalkery, Lucy. Like, calm down. Who's the Flavor Flav?
Oh, yeah, with the
Flavor
big
Flav.
clock.
Oh,
Like-
goodness.
Basically a clock, like
Yeah. Those
neck,
IKEA
like
clocks.
pendant.
You'd mentioned.
Maybe next show I could tie that with like a Paulin clock
There you go.
on a
Very nice.
on a pendant.
There you go. You had mentioned Creeder before, Creedor. I had one. My first son was born. I had a 38 millimeter Creeder Phoenix that I had sourced through Japan because obviously at the time in 2002 they were not available. Well, Creeder's still very not available anywhere.
Best place to get them now.
I loved that watch. It had similar to the Planet Ocean, ink black, reflective dial. All the dial furniture was applied. It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful, beautiful watch. I'm gonna try to find one if I can get one pre-owned. Anyways, that's a story for another
Very
day.
nice.
So moving on here, we've got a couple of questions for some audience members. One of them is from our mutual friend Chris Antzoulis. And when I put out the request for questions, he messaged me, "I've got a question for Lucy," with like 5 exclamation marks. So his question is, as we are both guest authors for Watch Gecko and we both run our own platforms, how does Lucy balance the work she does on her own platform with her work with Paulin and publishing on Watch Gecko? And in parentheses, he wrote, "I'm looking for tips to soothe my sanity." Now, you mentioned earlier a bit about mixing your work, your online work with Paulin, but now with everything else that you do, how do you handle all that balance?
I'm not really sure.
Boost?
Chris is counting on you here because he's hanging by a thread. Like he's been messaging me for 3 days looking for this answer.
Well, you know how I said like I've got with Paulin and then the extra day now to focus solely on the Watchbox Diaries stuff. I've got the balance better, and then me being me, obviously, and I'm also a chapter head for Cambridge Red Bar, and now I'm also an author for Watch Gecko as well. Just because, yeah.
Why not? Take it on.
I just hate socializing. Clearly, I hate having free time. Be realistic with what you can actually achieve. If 1 week you have to focus on something else, or 1 week you focus on your video, the next week you focus on writing an article, the following week you focus on family. Get a routine, get a schedule is probably what I would say. I have a schedule. Like you have to have this done by these days. I'm okay. Let me look at what I've got on this week. Okay, this day is dedicated to this. This day is dedicated to this. This day's my day. Make sure you have a you day. Even if it's a you evening, make sure you have that day and time for yourself. Like, I guess, other than Mr. Retired here, unless you do what I do and just like fill your free time with other things. It's funny because most of the people that retired that I know are busier than I am.
Yes, he is busier than all of us.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, like for us or for me in particular, when I was working a job, like you just said exactly the same thing. I saw myself in what you were saying, which was that you got to the point where you didn't think, you could do this and do that. And you finally decided, well, I'm going to make the jump to watches. So I was 3 years from official retirement. I had a great job, loved my career, but there came a point where the demand upon your time was coming to such that you had to say no to people, no to, press junkets and things like that. And, the more often you say no, the sooner or later they just stop asking. So, my wife, Caroline, and I, we sat down and we said, look, if we're going to make a go of this for real. It's now or never. And so we took the plunge. Like you say, it's a scary moment, absolutely a scary moment. But I think when you follow your passion, and if you are passionate for real, it will succeed, because, that ambition is true ambition, and so you see it in what you've achieved already. So, yeah.
I have a question for you, Brent. So since you've retired and you're doing a lot of these press junkets and stuff, how often have you gone up and down the 401 in Canada to Toronto and back this year? Now, Lucy, just so you know, Brent lives maybe halfway between Toronto and Montreal, and there's a highway called the 401 that leads to both, and he's just adding up the miles. It must be pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about a 3.5 hour drive to Toronto and about 2.5 hour drive to Montreal. I think they're thinking about it, and I'm going to petition Premier Doug Ford to see if they can install rails for me so that I can just step into my vehicle and then go straight there and straight back, because the traffic can be killer around Toronto in particular. But yeah, certainly a lot of times. Like we were just there on Thursday, Wednesday for the Tudor event. We might go back Sunday for an Atelier One event, and then who knows? It's all the time. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of travel. Canada is a big country.
Yeah, just
at what point do you just think about moving?
Oh.
Well, I also live on this beautiful little lake in the middle of nowhere, and the only traffic around where I live is a pack of wild turkeys. So that's always next to. It's a balance.
Yeah, the cost of living in Toronto is probably equal to the cost of living in London proper. It's really bad. And he mentioned traffic before, but it's atrocious in Toronto. There's a saying there, in Toronto, you're an hour away from being an hour away. So it's bad. So the next question we have is from Ken, who goes by Central Seconds on Instagram. He says, if you were hitting a big milestone, what watch do you dream of that you wish your significant other would surprise you with?
So
no,
for my 30th, so for my 30th, I basically was saving up myself for my Grand Seiko, and then my very lovely other half surprised me with it, and I full ugly cried. It was perfect. However, for my next big birthday, personally, I'd probably now be looking at the Vacheron American 1921.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful piece. Is it slightly overpriced for what it is? Probably, yes. But it's unique. It is my thing, which is classic with a twist. Ever since I first laid eyes on that watch, I have been obsessed with it. So that would be my choice. It is quite pricey, but it's a big birthday.
15 years from now, right?
Save up, ask for it, work for it.
There you
go. That's my goal for my next my next big, that's when I know I've either made it or I've won the lottery. Lisa's now got an American 1921. Or she stole it.
You mentioned your other half. I believe it's time to loom on Instagram.
Time to loom.
Yes. What does he think of your passion of watches? Is he just as insane as we are, or worse, or is he considered an obsession like my wife does?
Oh, it's the worst, because he's also very, very much into watches. So when people first meet us, obviously they think, oh, you're into watches, your other half got you into watches. And I'm like, nah, no. We were both into watches before we met. We bonded over watches, and now it is such a problem between the two. They're like, every one I speak to, they're like, oh, I wish my other half, I wish my partner was really into watches. I'm like, no, you don't. It is a financial irresponsibility, it's financial disaster, because he helps me out with my scripts, and wherever we go, he's like, here's where are all the watch shops? There's no one really to say no when you're both into watches. And it doesn't take a lot of convincing for someone to go, yeah, okay. So, when you're speaking to your other half and you're trying to justify a purchase, it takes very, very little. And because we both have an appreciation for the mechanics and the brand and the craftsmanship and, everything else that goes into, an innovation or a new dial or blah, 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 blah. We're like, oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, just get it.
And isn't that a good price? Yeah, you're right. It is a good price because you can recognize it. So
you speak to someone that's not into watches and they're like, how much for a watch? I want to buy a watch or he wants to buy a watch. And they're like, yeah, it's X amount, but it's, the movement is, what's the new Grand Seiko one? It's like minus 20 seconds per month. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Justified. Done.
It's actually 15 seconds a year. New one.
I just done, sold. Okay, yeah, just get it. That's fine. So, he's very much on board with the obsession, and he encourages it. He's an engineer as well, so he fully gets into the movements of everything and the technical aspects of it. For me, the majority of movements, they're fine. As long as I know that there are solid movements, and I do like to look at them, and they're solid, they're reliable. It's awesome that they're innovative. How good's their power reserve on it? That's great. If it's a basic movement, that's kind of all I'm really interested in, unless it's like a high-end piece that requires a lot more knowledge to learn about it, and it's very innovative. That's when I'll have more input into the movement. He's just like, oh, and this and this and this and this hairspring on this, and I'm like, I'm learning so much from you. Are any of you, obviously, Brent, your lovely lady is now into watches as well. So how
absolutely.
I'm now asking questions. I'm taking over. How is it now that she is into watches?
Well, it's more expensive, for sure. The family economy is suffering, but she went from really being a one-watch person, and it was really an aesthetic choice from her behalf, to now having probably north of 30 timepieces. She has a beautiful, beautiful leather watch box from Bosphorus Leather, and it's overflowed and it's all over the top of her dresser and that sort of thing. But what's really interesting is to watch somebody else's journey, because she can now recognize people's watches, from across the room. And because she's kind of in this niche world of watch enthusiasm, where I have a lot of, for example, micro brands or independent watches coming in, she recognizes strange watches too. She doesn't just say, oh, that's a Rolex, for example. She, oh, is that the new Nirvana Gretchen F77? So which is a really interesting development.
I'd be so proud.
She actually asks me sometimes, are you proud of me? Are you proud of me? She recognizes.
You know the answer to that question, right, Brent?
Yeah.
Tell her I'm proud of her.
I will. I'll pass it along.
My wife is not into watches, thankfully, but we both are passionate about travel. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's okay. Let's do it. Especially if the wine is out. We'll wake up in the morning and we're getting a trip to Colombia booked or something. It's...
Oh, yeah.
It's terrible, but
yeah, my wife is not into watches, and she thinks I'm absolutely crazy.
You have some form of voice of reason.
Yeah, very much so. Which is how I became so crafty with trading watches and buying and selling and figuring out ways to get what I want over the years. It's part of my journey, I guess.
You just take a few zeros off the end.
Yeah, we don't talk about the price as much. But again, I've been able to, over the years, with the same pool of funds, get pretty much almost anything I've ever wanted, just by trading and upgrading and working in this and writing for, and use those funds to have the money to buy watches, I guess, without having to touch the actual finances of the home. So it's been good. But she still thinks I'm nuts. Very much.
Everyone has a hobby.
Yeah, that's a little, when you're writing till the wee hours of the morning, or you're preparing a podcast or editing like Brent was doing and I'm doing now, till it's spending so much time on your hobby, and which is fine. I mean, our kids are older now. My kids are 21 and 23. They don't need to be, read books before bed. I mean, we stopped that last year, but we don't do it anymore. Yeah.
It's actually just specification manuals.
Yeah, exactly. This Grand Seiko. Yeah.
Well, Lucy, I don't think that you and Mark have had a chance to discuss your mutual love of kitties on this
No,
show.
we didn't.
So we're gonna have to have you back on sometime.
A dedicated
soon.
episode just for
you
that.
guys do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, watches and kitties. That's it.
Just watches and all animals. I'd be very on board with having a conversation about.
Oh, then we'll have
actually,
to have Caroline
funny story,
in on
and I don't think I said this on podcast. I work for a retailer, national retailer, and our distribution center is in Johnstown, Ontario, which is not far from where Brent lives. And so he and I both write for the Calibrated Wrist. Well, I write for his Calibrated Wrist. And so we swap watches regularly. And so he had come to by my office with Caroline and his Great Dane, Odin. And so I was coming out of my office, I was walking up, and they were in the vestibule between two glass doors. And Odin took up the entire vestibule just by himself, and they were crushed against the walls. He was so adorable. What a great dog. He was just
oh my gosh,
the greatest.
Yeah, he is the original gentle giant for sure.
I feel that's how I'm going to die. I would look at an animal and be like, I could pet that.
Oh yeah.
And it'd be a bear or something. Like, yeah, but it's like, if not pettable, why fluffy?
Yeah, exactly. Just like that little kid in the video. Can I pet that dog?
Oh my god, that meme lives in my head rent free. And where I live, there's dogs everywhere. So in my head, when I'm walking past a dog, I'm like, can I pet that dog?
Exactly.
In my head, every single time. Yeah, any animal, and I'm there for it.
Well, Lucy, you've been like a breath of fresh air here this morning. So thanks so much for taking the time and for bringing that enthusiasm and for having that sense of candor. We obviously wish you, all three of us, the best of luck moving forward with Paulin, as well as the Watchbox Diaries channels and any other projects that you have on the go now and into the future. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to finally meet you guys. I guess
it was great. It was great.
Still virtually, but at least now there's mouths working and we actually see
one step closer.
Yeah, one step closer.
Cheers. Time to Calibrate is available anywhere you find good watch podcasts. If you have enjoyed what you heard today, please do hit like and subscribe. We'd also love to hear from you in the comment section or even in our new Discord channel. Until next time, thanks for listening.